Hello Nashe. In this video I would like to talk to you about Icelandic magic and sorcery. Well, many people are really looking for the rules, the quintessence, what is sorcery is all about, finding a unifying definition. But on the other hand, in this era where post modern thought is pre-relevant, there is also the search for the local flavors of magic and local magics that survived, that could be taught, that could be shared. And I think that Icelandic sorcery pretty much covers it because their magical system is, and I say this in some hesitation, somewhat complete from ancient times, at least from the 1600s until today. And not only that, in Iceland there is also a museum of witchcraft. It's a small museum of witchcraft. I ordered some book from there and I will show you them in a second. And I got some postcards. It's some of the displays. Those are things that staves are carved into, bowls and materials and charms and all sorts of things. And I would like to talk about the basics of Icelandic sorcery and explain why I think the system is pretty much complete. So first of all, one of the amazing thing about Iceland is that out of 130 witch trials that happened in the 1600s, most of them were men. 121 of them were men and only one tried was a woman, meaning this actually breaks the record into men persecuted in witchcraft in Iceland. And the second thing is that we have books. We actually have sorcery books. And those books are a very interesting missing link between one that would be considered a medieval grimoire to an actual natural magic books or medicine books that also have some sorcery in there, the way that we know we have a lot in England and a lot of from Anglo-Saxon inheritance. So those books, so let's talk about those books. Those books are usually built in a shape, and I'm choosing this one to explain what it's called. Tvar Galdaskradjur, and I'm probably mispronouncing it. So forgive me, Icelandic people, but your language is difficult. And most of them, they are you open it, there are staves. Staves are magical symbols, like the ones you see here. And they very much look like sigils. And you have how and what to carve in them. For instance, carve the staves with saliva while fasting and put under your left hand if you want to win debates. A debate winning staff. And as you see here, there is a lot of materiality here. You use saliva to carve it. You don't always use saliva. Sometimes you use thorns. Sometimes you use your eating knife. And when and you can see there are rules when you are using your eating knife, because back then people would eat only with a knife and their right hand or left hand. You make a connection between you and the thing that you carve. And this time you use saliva, sometimes you use, sometimes you actually carve staves into the flesh of animals, either to protect them or bless them or do bad things to them. And another one, if you want to win, about wrestling, this is a wrestler staff. If you want to win, then carve the staff on the shell of human shoulder blade with steel and keep it in the shoe of the leg that you will use for wrestling. This is the one. So you see, you have use steel, use felt, use blessed paper, use it's a very primal sort of thing that you carve things, carve magical symbols. And some of them you're doing while you're fasting. Some of them requires that you injure yourself and use your own blood to carve them. And both of those things represent the first part of the materiality of witchcraft, which is there is a consciousness changing. When you injure yourself, you change your consciousness. When you fast, you change your consciousness. And in a place and a time where meditation did not exist, that is a legitimate way to change your consciousness in order to use your magic. Another thing is, of course, the materials. There are plenty of materials that you are carving with, or things that you are carving. There are certain herbs and oaks that you use. In one very interesting staff that you have there, you carve it on a specific skin of a calf, and you hide it in a caul. A caul, it's caul. It's basically a piece of placenta that the one that the child is born, and it's like on his head, and it's a very interesting piece of talisman that brings a lot of protection, especially for people at sea. And you carve it with myrrh. And it's very interesting that they want myrrh, because myrrh in Iceland in the 16th century is not going to be a very common thing. And when you want to see anywhere, anytime, you open it and you throw it into a natural source of water, and the place or the people you want to see will be revealed to you. So, you have like exotic materials being used, so the materiality is pretty much sound. Now, the language of the magic, this is something that needs work. People will need to work on the particles of the symbols to try to understand why these particles create this symbol that has this meaning. But you can see that there are a lot of symbols that repeat themselves. For instance, crosses are usually used for protection, for instance, in general. And the ancient cross did, in fact, use from protections. And so basically you have like three elements that would make this a whole magical system. One that should be well regarded. It's very interesting. It's like there is like, summoning and banish like ghosts and spirits, but there is no like demon summoning like in grimoires. But there is like if you want to row your boat better, or if you want a fair price for wares that you have in haggling. There are many spells here that are very useful. And usually, some of those spells, for instance, how many success in wrestling spells do you see in contemporary spell books? Not so much, sadly. So anyway, you have, I will give you another example from a different book. In this book, Rune, you have this. This is called the Lesser Seal of Solomon. And if you keep Jesus' name inside, it's a good protection symbol, for instance. So, it has a lot of Christianity mixed in that magic. And for those of you that are sorcerers and Christians, it would be good for you. But one of the most expensive and better and most interesting grimoires that I received was basically kept in an archive of a bishop. It's called Galdakver, okay? And it comes in this case, and it has two books. One is the actual facsimile print of the original, the other is the translation in 3 languages. One of them is English, of the original print. And you can see how those things were written on, on basically, it's not paper, it's vellum, basically. And instructions about how to carve those runes are to be used by the sorcerers. Now, several pages were lost to history. But other pages, basically, this is, for instance, just positive spells, just positive magic. This has nothing like about hexing. The other 3 books have like, negative spells, but this one is like just the good stuff. So anyway, I'm also, there is like this resurrection of this, of pagan communities in Europe. And there are many things that are available in Iceland about this. For instance, I got this from a best friend. This is a raven claw, an actual taxidermied Ravenclaw amulet that he got there. Those could not be purchased online, and you see the head, there is the head of the raven. There is the head of the raven, and that was also carved. And those cannot be purchased online. You need to go there and you need to find the pagan people that sells you stuff to actually, go around, see the people around, and see what's going on and what's being resurrected and what's not being resurrected. And I think it's a very interesting aspect to flavor one's tradition, especially that in a sense, I feel that modern sorcery, besides using sigils and like grimoire seals of spirits, are not using symbolism so much. They are using like the same old symbolism, and we need like to increase the efficacy of our spells by learning different and most interesting things of magic. And I will, in my corner of reading ancient spells, read several spells out of those new grimoires of mine. I finished reading them, and now that I finished my librarianship studies, I could share with you more information. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe, and have a lovely day.